Ron Majors.
Hi, Ro. Hi, Anna.
Hi, Ron.
And Ron not only is a great television anchor and a man about town, but most importantly, he is a very successful horse owner, breeder, operator of racing and breeding stables. It's a calling for him, and we call upon him right before the big races. And here we go, Saturday, Belmont in Elmont, New York, the Belmont Park, Belmont Stakes. This is a chance for a horse to win the Triple Crown. We've had a number of these horses over the last number of years who've won both the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness, but have failed in the Belmont. And there is actually a pretty simple technical reason for that, isn't there?
There is. Most people, I think, don't understand that the Belmont is a 1.5 mile long race. The Kentucky Derby is 1.25 miles. The Preakness is a 1/16 of a mile shorter than that. This is 1.5 miles. Not one of these horses has ever run a 1.5 mile long race before, and there's a 99% chance none of them ever will again. This is grueling. This is really tough. You mentioned horses who have failed. In the last 36 years, we haven't had a Triple Crown winner, but 12 horses have won the Derby and the Preakness and failed to win the third leg of the Triple Crown. You're also running at one of the only tracks in America that is 1.5 miles long. It's only one full circuit at Belmont Racetrack to run 1.5 miles. Most tracks are 1.25 miles or shorter. So this is one of the few places in the country, maybe the only place in the country, you can run 1.5 miles race, and it's just the two turns that you think of when you normally go to the racetrack. If you went anywhere else, you'd have to run around 3 turns.
Now,
it's really, really tough.
Is that confusing to the horse?
It can be. More confusing to the jockeys. On most tracks, when you get in that last turn, you're about 3/8 of a mile from the end of the race. So you start your running. No. Not at Belmont Park. You better wait till you're in the stretch because there's still a long way to go. And it's really hard for jockeys to not get anxious when they come around that last turn.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about American Pharoah, because American Pharoah is the horse that's won these two prior. As I mentioned earlier, I'm working out in New York today. Big story in New York is that of the owner, Mr. Zayat, who's an Egyptian, who by birth, and now he's got he lives here in the United States. Although he's a fascinating guy personally. He owned a brewery in Egypt. I would imagine that, in Muslim countries, even though Egypt is a very, very international, and Cairo is one of the most international cities in the world, right? But owning a brewery there, it could be tricky business. He was able to not only, it was a Heineken brewery, I believe, and he was not only able to branch it out into a bunch of other stuff, but he sold it for $250 million, and he came here and he started spending his money on horse racing, like all of us do. After you make a few bucks, you decide you want to lose it. And as Ron Majors told me before I got into business with him, he goes, if you want to be a horse racing millionaire, start with $1 billion.
That's a good way to do it.
It's a great way of looking at it.
He's been very successful in business. He's also been very successful in racing. He's going for the Triple Crown. He's a guy who's already he ran second in the Kentucky Derby 3 times before he won it with American Pharoah this year. He's had very successful horses. Many of his best horses have gone on to be stallions, and the stallions that he owns each year collect more than $10 million in stud fees. This guy's been very successful in several venues of his life, but he also has been the subject of a few lawsuits and has had some business issues.
Today in New York, it's a big story. There was a judge tossed a lawsuit against him out of court. There are apparently some folks from Eastern Europe here who claim that Mr. Zayat owes them a lot of money in a gambling debt. And we're trying to collect it through the courts here in New York State, and they didn't. And the judge was like, it was having none of it. But there's a lot of concern about these guys and who these guys are, and there's a good only in horse racing kind of subtext of seaminess to everything that is happening here.
Well, just before we hold any tag days for him or worry about whether he can afford to pay his gambling debt, we believe he's already sold the breeding rights to American Pharoah for over $20 million.
Oh, my goodness. Ron, why does everyone say that this horse could actually do it and achieve the Triple Crown? What is it?
A couple of things. One, he won the first two races fairly easily. Secondly, those people who've seen the horse and watched him train at Churchill Downs say this 3-race series is grueling on horses. Most horses almost waste away if they run in all 3 races. They lose weight. They're by the time they get to the Belmont, they're almost a shadow of their former self. He, I'm told, has actually gained weight and has thrived through this. So he may be one of those horses who just all the work you throw at him just makes him better.
It's an 8-horse field at the moment. We're assuming that they're all going to go in. There's a Chicago horse in here, right? The Chicago owners, at least. Keen Ice, is that right? Isn't that a
Keen Ice is trained by Dale Romans, and I give him a chance. He's a very long shot. One of the interesting things about this race is America loves American Pharoah so much. He's going to be a prohibitive favorite. That means the odds on all the other horses will be a little higher than they would normally be. It also gives an interesting opportunity to you. If you want American Pharoah to win the Triple Crown, and I do, because it's so good for the game, people enjoy it so much, then go ahead and make a bet on American Pharoah and enjoy your moment. You won't make much money. If you're interested in making money on the race, you could, if the odds stay where they are today, you could pick 4 other horses and make a $2 bet on each of them. And if any one of them wins, you'll make money. And if one of the longer shots wins, you'll make pretty good money. So you could actually bet 4 other horses against American Pharoah in this race and still have a really good chance to make money.
A lot of bettors do this trick at the Belmont because for exactly that reason, especially in a setup like you got here where there will be a prohibitive favorite because everybody wants, people are betting with their hearts, not their heads.
Yeah.
And every year, my suggestion is always take the 2 or 3 long shots and put $2 or whatever your tolerance for betting is on those. You can never go wrong because just whatever the money that you would otherwise buy a Coke or whatever else you're going to do with it, spend it on that because I have had in the Belmont on 2 different occasions a 30-1 come in and a 45-1 come in on the Belmont before because it can be done. All right, some of the other horses in this. This is interesting. As I mentioned, this Chicago horse Keen Ice. That is in it. That's 20-1 right now. Fermento has not been in either of these prior races, and he's at 30-1, correct?
Well, Frosted is the horse to look at, trained by Kieran McLaughlin. Frosted made a big move in the Derby, was 15th at one point, ended up 5th, and was a fast closing 5th after having a traffic trouble and was wide the whole way. And Frosted stayed out of the Preakness, so he's now had 5 weeks rest. I would also look at Made from Lucky, because Made from Lucky has had a win over the track at Belmont. He's already been at Belmont and been in a different good race, a stakes race, and was a winner there at Belmont, so we know he likes the surface. I talked to the Swami, who does a lot of race picking for us. Swami thinks Materiality will go to the lead but won't last. He thinks American Pharoah will be stalking the lead, and he does give American Pharoah a chance to win. But remember, it's the Belmont. It may not be the best horse that wins this race. It may not be the horse that goes on to have the best career after this that has this race. It may be what you could call a plodder, a horse that's got a medium-level speed, not great speed, but he stays. He's a stayer. He can run that way all the way to the end. Think of it like watching the Chicago Marathon. Those folks up front the first couple miles often aren't there at the end. Mm-hmm. And this Belmont stake may be that way. I'm rooting for American Pharoah. I'd love American Pharoah to win the race, and I'll be delighted if he does, but I won't bet American Pharoah because the odds are so short. As a bettor, I'll buy win tickets on Frosted, Made from Lucky, and Keen Ice.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. All right. I'm with you, and I'm going to be at the race on Saturday and jumping up and down like craziness. There's a Goo Goo Dolls concert right afterwards too, in case anybody's interested.
That's a nice combo.
You know, well, I'll tell you what's interesting. They're doing that at the Belmont this year because last year at the Belmont it was a mess.
Yeah.
To get away, the trains weren't running, and it was crazy, and there was like a 3-hour wait for people to leave. So what they did because right after California Chrome lost, everybody just boogied out of there. So what they're going to try to do this year is they're going to try to make it so that you can't you're encouraged to stay, and then it'll be a little less stressful on the commuter system to get people to and from this, which is at the very eastern end, right on the eastern border of New York City, of Queens. It's actually on the other side. It's a town called Belmont, New York, and it is. And to get there, they've got the Long Island Railroad takes you there, and to ease the stress, they hired the Goo Goo Dolls. Apparently, that's what you need to do when you got a stressful situation.
Mr. Duchess will loan you his helicopter so you can fly right in.
I've not been able to get that done. I believe I've already sort of I'm doing a total Zelig moment here. I'm trying to get into the box with Mr. Zayat for this. And trying to get down to the winner's circle without him figuring out it's me. That is my. I mean, not that he would know who I am, but I'm just saying that.
Let me tell you, New York is one place, and the Belmont in particular is another where I'm Rokon WGN isn't going to ring.
No.
Yeah, they might be like, whatever.
Oh yeah, no. I know that. But you know, if you walk with authority anywhere, as we've learned from like Jerry the Gatecrasher and other people like that, if you walk with authority anywhere, you never know.
Well, I'll look for you on TV.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to try this. So we'll see.
Does everyone dress up for Belmont like the Derby? Is it another one of those where the women wear the hats and it's very,
They can get a little dressed up, but it's not a real tradition like it is at the Derby. And before the race, when at the Kentucky Derby, they sing "My Old Kentucky Home." In New York, they used to sing "Sidewalks of New York." Now I think they sing New York, New York.
New York, yeah.
Oh,
and now the other thing too is they wear hats, but they're backwards Jets hats. They're
no seersucker out there or anything.
Yeah. No, there's suckers out there, but no seersucker. All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it, Ron.
All right, take care of you too.
Always great.
Thanks, Ron.
You can see Ron on the ABC 7 News at 5 and or 10 tonight. And remember what he said. He said Keen Ice, which is the 7 horse, Frosted, which is the 6 horse, and don't tell me he also liked Made from Lucky. Did he? Is that
I think he said Made from Lucky as well. Right. He said he was not going with American Pharoah.
Right. Just as
the odds are not that good, right?
3, 6, 7 are the horses. But you got to put American Pharoah in there at the end if you're going to do an exacta or trifecta or something like that. You need to. American Pharoah is definitely going to be there at the end of this race.
It would be very exciting to see that type of finish.